Welcome back to another episode of the pod, Talking Real Estate. I'm your host, Dustin Englam, and today we have a special guest, Nicole, with Clear Title out of Pryor. Nicole, introduce yourself.
I'm Nicole Shelton. I have been an escrow officer for 5 years, and then also had a real estate license part of that time. So I've been on both sides of transactions, and looking forward to talking with you today.
Perfect. So, go over what is the main role. Describe what an escrow officer is.
You come and see me after a contract is in place. And I am kind of the informational hub for the transaction at that point. I communicate with realtors on both sides, lenders if there is one, insurance companies, anybody who's involved in the transaction at that point communicates with me.
Perfect. So what are some common misconceptions that people have about the escrow process?
Probably that it's a lengthy process, and it really doesn't have to be, depending on the transaction.
In your opinion, why is the escrow process so important for a buyer or a seller?
So escrow agents are a neutral third party. We hold all of the funds throughout the transaction, and we don't release them until the terms of the contract have been met, or we have a release of contract that tells us who those funds go to. And that release is signed by everybody, so everybody has agreed that's where it goes.
What are some of the differences? Because we have multiple people, we have buyers and sellers that work with different escrow companies and different closers. So what is kind of the difference? How is it different when you're working with a seller, say, and a buyer is working with a different company?
I think for the escrow process, it probably prolongs it a little bit just because you have more people involved. And depending on the needs of the buyer or seller, that determines what company that they would use.
So one thing that we've really been wanting to bring up is kind of covering probate. It's kind of you say the word probate, and not everyone really knows what that is or knows what that process is. So what role do you play throughout the transaction in a probate situation?
If probate is involved, ideally, it's great if it's done before the property has a contract on it to be sold, because it's a lengthy process. It can take up to 90 days if it's not contested at all. If it's contested, it takes longer than that. So your buyer will be delayed in purchasing, and we prefer that the probate be done beforehand, but that doesn't usually happen.
Yeah. So I had this situation a couple years ago. I got this listing, and my clients, the sellers, it was like, yeah, we've already went through probate. We have proof from the attorney. It's ready to sell. Everything's good. So we're like, great, let's get this sucker on the market. We actually got it sold before it went on the market. But anyways, about 2 weeks into the process, my closer, she's going through and she's finding some stuff, and she's like, this house is, it's not ready. And there was quite a bit of things that had been jumped over or missed that were just not getting uncovered.
We come across that quite often. So then what happens is the title attorney that's going over abstracting and what have you, they find that and they say, oh, well, this step was skipped, so this needs to be done. And as the escrow agent, we get to tell everybody that, oh, well, probate was done, but it's not done.
Yeah. My sellers were not very happy about that because they were
you pay a lot for that.
Yeah, they had already paid for it for one, and then they was wanting their money from that sale, and it ended up getting delayed, I think, around 30 more days just because of it took 2 weeks into the process before they even realized, like, hey, we was 2 weeks before closing. We was halfway through before they realized a bunch of stuff had got missed. So what advice can you give? I guess probably would just be to get it done beforehand.
Well, transfer on death deeds are awesome.
Okay.
So if you own property and you can fill out a deed that transfers it, say, to me when you die, then it automatically puts me in title, and there is no need for that process. It's filed with the county just like a normal deed is, and you have to usually produce a death certificate.
Perfect. So going off of that, do you know anything or kind of know through the process of, we hear a bunch, I've seen it a lot on social media where people saying, get it into a trust versus having just kind of a will, like get everything transferred into a trust. Can you explain how that will kind of simplify? and how it bypasses the probate situation?
It does simplify it because in a trust, then you have successor trustees. So automatically they can sign. Then when someone passes or is unable to sign, let's say they go into maybe a nursing home or something, then that successor trustee can sign.
Is there anything that you offer as a closer with Clear Title that might make you stand out versus some of the other closers in the county?
I do mobile closings. I do after hours closings. I work when realtors work, and I work around people's work schedules. So maybe you don't have to take off work to close.
Perfect. That is a big thing, especially the mobile closing, because it helps out a lot. There's not very many agents or not very many closers in this area that offers mobile closings. But the ones that do, they seem to be more. We have a mobile closer that works really close with our office that will be here a couple times throughout the week. So that's something that really stands out to the realtors, especially because some of our clients, they're comfortable with coming into our office, and it seems a whole lot easier versus to coming to a different location where they've never been before. So it kind of helps put at ease on some clients as well, I feel.
Sure. And that's another reason that I don't contact your clients. I will contact the realtor and tell them what I have to say. If they want me to contact the client, I can. But they're used to talking to their realtor. So I don't call them out of the blue and go, hey, I need this and this. And it's personal information.
Yeah. So recently, how has the market kind of been? Have you noticed anything changing or any trends or anything happening locally?
For us, it's been pretty steady. There's still not a whole lot for sale. There's more people looking than there are things for sale, but that's been that way a while now.
For the past couple of years, we're slowly seeing our inventory come up just because a lot of people that have been buying throughout the past couple of years, they started to see, I think the trend in the lowering interest rate has kind of slowed people from buying just because they feel like it's going to keep going down.
Right.
Versus last year, it was steadied out into the upper 7s or so. So more people were buying because there's like it's going to be like this for a while. And now that it's slowly started coming down, people's like, well, we're just not going to buy right now just so that way it'll keep coming down.
Wait and see.
And then I think it's kind of leveled out about low 6s now, and people's realized it might not be coming down much closer. So do you work with commercial very much or mainly just kind of residential?
I have done some commercial, but mostly residential.
Mostly residential. Are there any key differences that you notice between them, or is it still kind of the same step-by-step process that you have to go through? Same process. So you mentioned that you was a real estate agent and now you're an escrow officer. So kind of go through that. What made you change your occupation?
I started out as an escrow processor, and I liked the process, but I liked the real estate side of it too. So I decided, well, for the knowledge part, I'm going to go get my real estate license. So I sold it for a couple of years and then went back to closing because I felt like I had what I needed to really understand that process and really help everybody most. So
it was mainly kind of just like you just wanted to dive in there to kind of see that side so that way it could make you stand out as an escrow officer.
Yes.
So that way, okay.
So I'm just from an outsider's perspective, more of a consumer. I don't know much. So what, you might have already explained this, but the process is, do the real estate agents reach out to you? Like you touched on they could pick you over other so why? Like I don't know enough to know like to shop around. So what, I don't know, what is, did you already touch on that?
Not really. So, what closing company you kind of go with, honestly, kind of depends on the real estate agent because your clients are going to ask you or you're going to recommend, and obviously you're going to recommend the person you get along with the most or someone that does how you feel does really good work. So, it's kind of just off a clientele based.
I've always been just shuffled along the process, and so I didn't even know like you could choose your closing.
You can, and a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But sometimes if there's a lender involved, they only work with certain closing companies. So they may drive that a little bit because, hey, we only work with this one. But ultimately, it is the buyer and seller's choice. They usually default to whoever their realtor tells them to use, and sometimes they don't even ask because they're just like the realtor takes care of that. But they can they can shop that and call around for the different rates. And if they know, hey, I can't take off work, I need somebody that's going to come to me or accommodate me after hours, they can shop for that.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So, Nicole, like on your day-to-day, what are some things that you run into, or explain kind of what your day-to-day kind of looks like with title work and going through documents and organizing all that?
So my day-to-day is a lot of checking emails, contacting the different parties to a transaction, and I may do that with, 10 or 15 files a day. So I'm talking to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. It's a lot to remember. I don't remember it. So I'm constantly looking to see who have I talked to and what did I tell them, because it's a lot. But just making sure that everything gets done so that these people can get to the closing table, get paid, and get the keys exchanged. And
So what are you said make sure the things need to get done. So what are some of the things that do need to get done?
So in title work, sometimes the title work will say that, hey, we need proof that there's access to the property. Well, that means I'm ordering a survey to prove that you can actually access the property and don't have to cross somebody else's land.
Perfect.
Hey, you just got home from a long day at the office. How do you unwind? Like, what gets you going? What lights your fire when you're not on the clock? And maybe softball, maybe, I don't know. Personal plug, I guess.
So for me, I have 3 teenagers at home. They're all busy in activities, and my husband travels as a lineman all the time. So it's just me and the kids. I'm chasing them constantly. I wouldn't have it any other way. So to unwind, I'm chasing them. I'm doing what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, this weekend was all about softball again. Yes, we won a state championship, but now competitive ball started, so we were at the softball field.
Alrighty, well, Nicole, thank you for joining us and joining the pod, and we hope our goal is to kind of educate the general public, also our buyers and sellers and all of our clients, to kind of help them get familiar with Lakeland and with local companies and offices, and kind of get them into the real estate process so that way they're not going in blindly. So if y'all have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call or reach out here at the Lakeland office, or contact Nicole at the Clear Title Prior office. Thank you.